this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to handle circles. So let me just do my silly sketch of a circle. Here we go. There it is. Not sure why that needed to be there, but nevertheless, still going to do it. Okay, here's the idea, everybody. When you're hit with a GRE circle question, it's really just asking you your knowledge, testing your knowledge of several things. Can you find the area? Can you find the circumference? Can you find an angle? And then the fourth thing is going to be, we're going to go, trust me, we're going to go through all of these things in this video, or we might stretch it out to a couple, but arcs and chords, more on that in a moment, and then something called inscription. This last one is relatively uncommon, not that frequent. It's uncommon, but we'll talk about this in a minute. Okay. And typically a question is going to involve some sort of combination thereof. Like we might have to figure out an area of an arc, or first figure out the angle that helps us figure out the area, all that kind of stuff. But here's what you just really have to have down is you need to know for the area, the formula for that is pi r squared. For the circumference, it's going to be 2 pi r. Angle, remember that there's 360 degrees in the entire thing. More on these two in just a moment. Now, the key piece of information that you need for every circle question is what is the radius. Anytime that, if you take anything away from this video, that is your takeaway. If you've got one thing, if you've got a circle question, the first thing you should do, what's my radius? And then go from there. Okay? Now, what I want to do is talk a little bit about arc and chords, because these tend to be the more complicated looking circle problems. We'll do inscription in a minute. But as a quick review, here's the idea. An arc is really just a portion of the length, the curve of the circle. That's going to be, so I can think about it like this. Arc indicates the length of a portion, length of part of circle. Okay? Now, the way that we can interpret that is that what we're really asking for, anytime you have an arc question, is what fraction of circumference are we dealing with? Let me just give you an example for a minute. Circumference. So supposing I had this, they said this was the center, and I cut out a slice out of my circle, like so. Okay. Now, if I asked you, what is the arc? Let's label these points. That's A, that's B, that's center C. So if I asked you, here might be the question, would be something like, what is, they'd say AB, and they would do this little thing right there. What is the arc length between A and B? Well, what this means is I'm trying to figure out the length between A and B. But length is circumference. So all I really have to do is just figure out, well, what is the total circumference here? So you just think about it like this. The steps for whenever you're asked to find an arc length are, number one, what is the total circumference? Second, what is the fraction of the arc? And then third step is going to be multiply, that was a weird looking M, multiply fraction by total. And that is it. Let me demonstrate this just for a minute. Okay? Supposing I told you, just to illustrate this, supposing I said that, how about I said my radius, from the center to the edge, let's say I said that was 4. Okay? And I told you then that this right here was 30 degrees. It's a 30-degree angle in the center. Okay. Now, with arcs, here's the idea. Let's start with the first, is that if the center angle is 30, then so is the A to B, the outside edge. So that's also going to be 30 degrees. Okay? The center and the edge are equal. So I'm going to say center angle or degree is equal to edge degree. Okay. Well, now let's just think about this. Let's go through our steps. If I asked you, okay, given this information, what is the distance or the length of traveling from A to B? Well, the first thing is, what is the total circumference? Let's start there. Well, using our formula, circumference is 2 pi r. If r is 4, total circumference would just be 2 times pi times 4, which would just be 8 pi, right? Now, the next step, what would be the fraction of the arc compared to the whole circle? Well, it's 30 out of 360 degrees would be the entire distance around. So I can just write that down. That's just 30 out of 360. If you simplify that, I have a feeling that I got my math wrong here. Oh, it's 1/12. So the fraction is 1/12. Okay. And then the last step would be, well, if it's 8 pi to go all the way around, but I'm only going 1/12 of the distance, I would just multiply 1/12 times 8 pi to get the distance between A and B. So that would just be 1/12 times 8 pi, and that gets me to, let's see, 8 over 12 pi, which I guess I could reduce that. So what is that going to be? Oh gosh, I used to be able to do these things. 2/3 pi, right? Yeah. And there you go. That's it. Okay? That's all you have to do with arcs. Now, let's talk about chords for a moment. Let me clear this out just to have a little, oh gosh, that's not going to work. Okay, hold on a second. Try that again. Clear that. Let's make just a little bit of space. And here. There we go. Clearly this is a very unscripted video. Quite apparently. Okay. Okay, so a chord is just referring to the lines, the lengths from the inside of the circle to the edge. Okay, so it's this stuff. Whenever you have a chord question, that really just involves what would be the area. So now I'm not interested in what the circumference would be, like the portion from A to B, but what if I asked you, what's the area of this slice? It's exactly the same as what we just did. We figure out if we're asked an area question. So we'll say area, okay? First step, total area. Figure that out first. Second, fraction. Third step, multiply. So, supposing I asked you, what is the area of this slice? Well, all we do is, well, let's figure out what the total area of the entire circle is. Well, we know what that formula is, pi r squared. So if the radius is 4, 4 squared, 16 pi, right? Total area is, let's switch colors, 16 pi. All right. Well, what's the fraction of the slice? So we just did that, right? It's 30 degrees out of out of 360. It's 1/12. So multiply. That would get us to 1/12 times 16 pi gets us to 16 over 12. I'm pretty sure I can reduce this, but I'm a little scared. Oh, it's 4 over 3. Yeah, 4 over 3 pi. And we're done. That's it. This is just generally what you're asked to do with any kind of circle problem on the GRE. It's just figure out an area or a circumference or a portion thereof, and if you've got a little slice, you just kind of have to use these techniques that we just discussed here to figure out what kind of fraction of the whole are we dealing with. And once we know that, we know that, as I put here, once we know what the total is, what's the fraction, multiply them together, and we are done. Okay, pausing the video, and then we're going to go into some problems.